Have you ever looked into the mirror and felt something is off, but you can't quite put your finger on it? It's not just your hair or your clothes. It's something deeper, something more subtle, almost like the image staring back at you doesn't match the person you feel you could be. That slight discordance, often overlooked, quietly chips away at our self-esteem. The truth is, appearance is more than just about aesthetics or personal taste. It's a sometimes distorted reflection of how we treat ourselves, how we see ourselves from within, and how much we respect ourselves even when no one else is watching. There's a common narrative that tells us taking care of our appearance is superficial, that anyone who cares too much about it is distracted from what really matters. But what if it's the other way around? What if, by having clarity inside, we feel called to reflect that externally, not for the approval of others, not to gain validation from an external gaze, but because there's a coherence that strengthens us when what we are inside starts taking shape outside too. There's something deeply transformative about the everyday act of choosing how we present ourselves to the world. It's not about perfection, it's about intention. The way you dress, do your hair, care for your skin and body, those are all silent language gestures, messages you send to the world, but most importantly, messages you send to yourself. This is my worth, this is what I respect, this is what I'm willing to uphold. Yes, there are days when it's harder, days when fatigue, sadness, or routine take over. But even on those days, or especially then, choosing consciously how we present ourselves can be an intimate act of resistance, like deciding not to completely give up. Even when you feel like you're falling apart on the inside, here's a suggestion. The next time you look in the mirror, don't look for flaws. Don't judge yourself, just observe. Ask yourself honestly, does the image I see reflect the person I'm trying to be, or am I perpetuating an old version of myself just out of habit? Sometimes the first step toward deep transformation begins with something as simple as adjusting the collar of your shirt or changing how you stand in front of the world. There's a direct, though often invisible, connection between how we see ourselves and how we function. It's not a metaphor, it's physiology. The human brain chemically responds to the signals it receives from our body and our image. When you like what you see in the mirror, when you perceive that your appearance expresses dignity, vitality, authenticity, your nervous system responds with dopamine, serotonin, and endorphins. This translates into more energy, more clarity, and more drive. And it's not magic. It's biology in action applied to daily life. On the other hand, when you avoid the mirror or when you look at it with resignation or disdain, your body triggers a different response: cortisol, stress, emotional fatigue. Over time, that wears down your decisions, your way of communicating, and how you show up in the world, because no one acts with full presence from a place where they don't feel worthy. What's most curious is that this relationship between appearance and emotional state isn't always immediately obvious. We get used to the disconnection. We become functional within neglect, telling ourselves it doesn't matter, that we're focused on what's important. But the body doesn't lie. It registers what the mind denies, carrying the burden of what we refuse to acknowledge. I'm not talking about fashion or beauty standards. I'm talking about personal congruence, about that internal feeling that says, yes, what I project matches who I am, or at least who I'm trying to be. When there's alignment, something within the psyche begins to settle. It's as if all the internal pieces finally start speaking the same language. Like the chaos quiets just a little when we feel we're treating ourselves with respect. Because in the end, beyond the visible, what truly impacts us is the message we're sending to our nervous system. I'm here, I'm present, I care, I matter. And that kind of message, when repeated consistently, builds an emotional foundation on which better decisions can be made. It's not about seeking validation, it's about reclaiming power, stopping the habit of viewing life from the margins, and starting to take center stage. So, ask yourself without judgment, are you using your appearance as an ally in your growth process or as an armor to hide behind? Because in that mirror, more than a face, more than a body, what's reflected is a relationship with yourself. There are moments in life when we feel like we're changing on the inside, but we're still stuck in an old image. It's as if our skin hasn't quite caught up to our soul. It's like the new version of us hasn't fully dared to emerge yet. And that's where a subtle but powerful dissonance occurs. What we are and what we show don't match. That lack of congruence doesn't just create discomfort, it also weakens our presence, because the world doesn't respond so much to what we say, but to what we radiate without words. It's not about wearing masks, it's about removing the ones that no longer serve us, the ones we put on without even realizing it, sometimes out of necessity, sometimes out of fear. The style you adopted years ago might have made sense then, but does it still represent who you are now? Or has it become a uniform that you repeat out of inertia, without checking if it still fits? We are constantly evolving beings, yet so often our external image remains frozen in a past version of ourselves. And that weighs on us. It weighs like old relationships that no longer nurture us, like habits that no longer represent us, like accumulated silences of not saying what truly matters. Dressing like someone we no longer are is a form of self-neglect so subtle it hurts without us even knowing why. And no, I'm not talking about fleeting trends or changing to impress others. I'm talking about authentic presence, about seeing and recognizing yourself, about allowing your appearance to be a mirror, not of what others expect to see, but of what you already know is awakening within you. Sometimes it takes just one small gesture, a different color, a more open posture, or a haircut that makes you feel present, awake, ready to engage with life. What's external doesn't solve the internal, but it can accompany it, it can support it. Congruence is not a destination, it's a practice. And when it happens, you can feel it in your gaze, in your tone of voice, in the way you walk. It's not vanity, it's coherence. Because when what you see matches what you feel, your body stops resisting and begins to inhabit itself. So look at yourself with honesty. Ask yourself, without any filters, is the image I hold today in dialogue with my internal truth, or is it interrupting its flow? There's no right answer, just the courage to look without any adornments. Sometimes the most courageous thing we can do is update our external appearance so we don't betray ourselves inside. Taking care of appearance is still often misunderstood as vanity, as if the act of choosing an outfit with care, grooming with calm, or applying cream to your face is a superficial indulgence. But there's a huge difference between doing it to be seen and doing it to see yourself. There's a kind of care that is not trivial, that comes from a deep desire not to abandon oneself, to be present for oneself, even when no one else is watching. Think for a moment about how you care for the people you love. When someone truly matters to you, you notice the details. You prepare meals with more dedication, choose your words more carefully, adjust a piece of clothing on their shoulder without saying anything. It's a form of silent love that doesn't need to be displayed. You can offer that same gesture to yourself every day. And the mirror can become the altar where this ritual begins. I'm not talking about a rigid or automatic ritual. I'm talking about an intimate encounter with yourself, that moment when you look at yourself not to criticize, but to remind yourself who you are, to affirm yourself in a world that often pushes us to forget. There's something deeply sacred in the simple gesture of brushing your hair with care on a hard day, or choosing clothes that silently say respect even when you're tired. Many adults, especially those between 30 and 60 years old, fall into a kind of visual autopilot. They repeat the same style, the same colors, the same expression, not out of conviction, but out of resignation. It's as if they've accepted a diminished version of themselves. Over time, this erodes vitality, it dims the spark, it extinguishes the desire to renew oneself, to be surprised by what is still possible. But there's a way out, and it starts with the small things. It begins with getting up in the morning and asking yourself, what does my image communicate about me today? Not for others, but for you, for your body, for your subconscious. And if the answer is not much, that's the invitation. Because sometimes caring about your appearance is not about looking strong. It's about silently reminding yourself that you're still here. There's a simple, almost invisible gesture that can change the tone of an entire day. Looking in the mirror in the morning and staying there for just a few extra seconds. Not to fix yourself in a rush, not to correct yourself, but just to ask yourself honestly, does the person I see reflect my values, my desires, my internal battles? Most of the time, we don't give ourselves that moment. We rush straight to the urgent, the external, the hurried. But that small instant in front of the mirror can become a turning point, a silent declaration. Today, I will not overlook myself. The way we leave our house is not neutral. Our body registers it, our mind processes it. There's a massive difference between putting on something, anything, because it doesn't matter, and choosing something with presence, with intention. It doesn't matter if it's a simple piece of clothing. What matters is how you wear it, with what posture, with what gaze, with what level of presence you're inhabiting while you wear it. Reserving just 10 minutes a day to care for your appearance isn't a luxury. It's an emotional investment. It's time for yourself, where you reconnect with that intimate commitment to not leave yourself behind. And that gesture has effects that ripple outwards. It boosts your energy, strengthens your self-esteem, and while that may not be the goal, it also changes how others perceive you. Because credibility starts in the way you look at yourself. What you choose to wear is, in a sense, an aesthetic affirmation of your internal narrative. If you dress as though nothing matters, bit by bit, you start feeling like nothing matters. But if you choose with awareness, even in the midst of exhaustion, you're creating a bridge between your current version and the version you aspire to be. It's not about impressing anyone. It's about not betraying that quiet impulse to be more yourself. And so I ask you, how many times this week did you treat yourself like someone worthy of care? How many times did you look at yourself with tenderness, without expectation, and choose to present yourself to the world from a place of respect rather than resignation. It's not vanity, it's identity, and when you give it form, even with a small detail, your day shifts, as if something within you is reminded that, yes, you're still on time. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about establishing a minimum that is worthy of you, a personal standard that doesn't depend on whether someone is going to see you, whether you have an important meeting, or whether it's Monday or Sunday. There's a dignity that's built in the intimacy of choosing to treat yourself with respect, even in the simplest moments, when you wake up, even if you don't feel like it, and decide not to dress like someone who has already given up. That minimum is not dictated by fashion, social media, or external rules. It's dictated by your conscience, that part of you that knows, without anyone telling you. When you're caring for yourself, and when you're silently abandoning yourself, the subconscious doesn't get fooled by excuses. It observes, it registers, and every time you break your own agreements, your self-image weakens just a little more. And do you know why that matters? Because the way you treat yourself privately determines what you project publicly. It doesn't matter how competent you are. If you don't see yourself with respect, that filters into your words, your gestures, your way of occupying space. When you don't support yourself internally, you become more susceptible to external validation. You need approval because you've neglected your own self-validation. On the other hand, when you decide to maintain your standard, even if it's basic, even if it's simple, you're strengthening an invisible muscle, self-respect. It's like telling yourself, even on my toughest day, I'm still choosing not to let myself fall apart completely. And while that may seem small, it has an accumulative effect. A piece of clothing you choose with intention, a hairstyle you do with care, a posture you correct, those things add up, they speak, they build you. Don't wait for someone to notice you to start noticing yourself. You don't need an audience to justify your presence. All it takes is for you to take yourself seriously, to look at yourself as someone who's worth the effort. When that becomes a habit, you no longer have to impose yourself, you naturally inspire, and that transforms not just how you feel about yourself, but also how the world responds to you. So let me ask you, what is your personal minimum? Are you respecting it? Or are you negotiating it a little more each day? Sometimes regaining trust in yourself doesn't start with a big decision. Sometimes it starts with the intimate act of no longer breaking that silent agreement you made with yourself. Don't seek to transform everything all at once. The most lasting revolutions rarely make noise. They're quiet, accumulative processes that unfold in the details. A 1% change each day may not seem like much, but if you sustain that gradual improvement over weeks, months, and years, the result is inevitable. It doesn't just change your image, it changes how you exist in the world, how you inhabit yourself. There are those who think that in order to feel different, they need a drastic change, a radical cut, a new wardrobe, an extreme plan. But the truth is, these fast changes rarely last because they have no roots. What really transforms you is what you do every day without needing any spectacle. It's that intimate gesture of choosing a piece of clothing that flatters your body, changing a color that brings back vitality, or trying a hairstyle that better reflects who you are now. The body responds to love with time, with consistent care, with the decision not to demand that you be someone else, but to be more of yourself, more aligned, more present. There's no urgency, there's a path, and the path is walked step by step. Improving just a little each day is often the most compassionate and powerful way to grow, because you're not acting out of dissatisfaction. You're acting out of responsibility, out of the desire to be closer to who you truly are. You don't need to change everything. Just a small, conscious adjustment is enough. Maybe it's time to let go of that piece of clothing you've been wearing out of habit, even though it no longer suits how you feel, or allow yourself to try something you once thought wasn't for you. Often the limit isn't in the mirror. It's in the narrative you've been repeating to yourself for years. And sometimes a small aesthetic change, however minor, can shatter that story. So I ask you, what could you change today? Just 1% to bring you a little closer to your ideal image? Not the perfect image that doesn't exist, but the one that makes you feel aligned, worthy, and with enough energy to carry you through your days. Sometimes true evolution begins with something as simple as buttoning up your shirt with more care, pairing a color that reminds you you're alive, or simply deciding not to dress as though you've already given up on yourself. Make the 1% philosophy your own. Not to push yourself more, but to remind yourself that every gesture counts, that every choice is a way of saying, I'm here, still growing, but committed to the most honest version of myself. There's something that happens when you start treating your appearance as an extension of your internal energy, not as a mask, but as a legitimate expression of what you feel, what you believe, and what you're cultivating within yourself. When that happens, your image stops being just a reflection and becomes a source of confidence, of clarity, of genuine magnetism. Because when you look good, you don't just feel good, you radiate something different. People notice even if they can't quite pinpoint what's changed. Your presence becomes more solid, more centered, more coherent. And that opens doors not because of appearance, but because of energy. People trust more in those who seem rooted in themselves, who radiate order, intention, and presence. That effect can't be bought. It's cultivated from within, but it manifests on the outside. There are days when all it takes is a gesture, a shirt that fits well on your body, a fragrance that reconnects you to a forgotten part of yourself, or a color that brings light back to your face. And in those moments, everything aligns, not because it's a disguise, but because what you feel finally finds a way to show itself. What's fascinating is that this self-care doesn't stay just with you. It has a multiplying effect. When you take care of yourself, you inspire others, often without even trying. Your energy lifts the energy of those around you. Family, colleagues, friends, they all perceive, even if they don't say it, that you're present in a different way. You're more whole, more awake, more in tune with yourself, and that creates a little ripple. Others begin to take better care of themselves, to pay more attention, to look at themselves with more kindness. Your image isn't just yours anymore. It's a way of telling the world, this is the standard I hold for myself. This is the level of respect I give and offer. You don't need to say anything. Your presence speaks for you. The way you walk, the way you look, the way you enter a room communicates more than any speech. And this doesn't come from the ego. It comes from your commitment to your well-being. Now, observe your surroundings. Notice what effect your presence has on others. Are you elevating the energy around you, or are you dimming it? Are you inspiring others, or are you spreading a sense of weariness? Sometimes, the most profound leadership starts with the intimate act of looking at yourself honestly and deciding again today, I choose not to overlook myself. There's a practice that may seem simple, but holds the power to confront you like few things can. Looking at yourself not casually, not to judge yourself, not as a quick prelude before heading out, but really looking at yourself in the mirror, full body, no distractions, just you with yourself. And ask yourself, without filters, does what I see bring me closer or take me farther from the person I want to be? Many avoid that moment because facing ourselves without excuses can be painful. It hurts to see the accumulated neglect. It hurts to recognize in the posture, in the gaze, in the slumped shoulders, everything we've postponed about ourselves. But even there, in that honest gaze, a different spiral can begin, a positive one where care no longer comes from the need to fulfill expectations, but from the desire to be better, to inhabit yourself with more respect. Some people think change begins with a goal, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes it starts with a question or a photograph. Take a picture today, just as you are, not to criticize, but to document, to see yourself, and then revisit it in 90 days, not to seek perfection, but to acknowledge presence, commitment, and evolution. And if you don't like the image today, that's okay. You're not obligated to celebrate it, but you can do something with it. You can turn it into a reference, not as punishment, but as a starting point. Because looking at yourself with compassion doesn't mean ignoring what you see. It means holding it with dignity and still saying, from here I move forward. Make small changes. Let go of that piece of clothing you know doesn't flatter you anymore, even though you've held on to it out of habit, comfort, or neglect. Add 15 minutes to your routine just for yourself, not for anyone else, but to remind your body that it matters, to give a little vitality back to your face, to let your reflection stop looking like a version that's simply surviving and start looking like someone who is truly living. You can do this for yourself. You can choose yourself without any external urgency, without a crisis, without a special event. That's emotional maturity, choosing to care for yourself when no one else is asking you to, when the only one who will know you took that step is you. Your body will know, your energy will feel it, and your presence, without you saying a word, will begin to communicate something different. The way you present yourself to the world is a constant declaration. Even when you're not speaking, even when you're not thinking about it, your image speaks before your words. And it's not about empty aesthetics or conforming to imposed standards. It's about recognizing that your presence is also a tool for life, a form of silent leadership, an emotional strategy, a spiritual practice even when it's done consciously. Because you can have the best intentions, the noblest values, and the deepest ideas, but if your presence isn't aligned with them, if your energy doesn't transmit them, the world won't receive your message, not because it's unfair or because you're less valuable, but because that's how human perception works. We're sensory beings. We pick up signals, and appearance is one of them. That doesn't mean you have to please everyone or turn into an acceptable version of yourself. It means you can use your appearance as a channel for integrity, a way to say without words, "This is what I believe, this is what I care for, this is what I'm willing to uphold." And that's deeply transformative, because when there's coherence between what you think, what you feel, and what you show, the world responds differently. More doors open, more respect flows, more genuine connections are formed. And while this isn't an immediate process, it's not unreachable either. It starts like everything real, with the decision to look without masks, to stop using routine as an excuse, to stop hiding weariness behind neglect, to say, today, even if just a little, I'll show up as someone who respects themselves. Transformation isn't only measured by visible results. It's measured by how you hold yourself together on difficult days, by how you choose to dress for yourself, even when no one's watching. It's in how you speak to yourself when you're alone, the gentleness with which you let go of things that no longer represent you, and the firmness with which you reaffirm yourself every day as someone worthy of care. So, if you've made it this far, don't walk away with a formula. Walk away with a question, just one. What does your presence today say about your relationship with yourself? Because that's where everything begins. Not in the mirror, but in how you choose to look at yourself and respond with honesty. Because in the end, the way you present yourself isn't just about what you see in the mirror. It's a reflection of how you relate to yourself on the inside. When you choose to honor yourself in small, everyday ways, you're building a deeper relationship with who you truly are. And that relationship doesn't depend on external validation or the opinions of others. It's a relationship rooted in self-respect, self-awareness, and authenticity. This act of caring for your appearance is an invitation to be fully present in your own life, to acknowledge your worth and show the world that you are committed to living from a place of integrity. It's not about perfection, but about alignment. The way you carry yourself, the way you choose your clothes, the way you stand in front of the world, these small, intentional choices are your way of saying, I'm here, I'm worthy, and I matter. It's a quiet but powerful act of reclaiming your presence and your energy. When you choose to invest in yourself, even in simple ways, you start to see the world differently. You start to show up in life with more confidence, more clarity, and more purpose. And that energy ripples outward, influencing the people around you. It creates a ripple effect of respect, kindness, and authenticity. You may not even realize it, but your own commitment to yourself serves as an example for others. Your presence becomes a silent invitation for them to do the same, to treat themselves with the same care and respect that you've chosen to give to yourself. Your image is not just a personal statement. It's a form of leadership. It's a way of influencing the world around you without needing to speak a word. The way you show up, the way you take care of yourself, communicates far more than any speech or presentation ever could. And this doesn't come from ego. It comes from a place of deep self-respect and commitment to living authentically. When you are aligned with who you are, when your appearance reflects the person you are inside, people will notice. They may not be able to explain what's different, but they'll feel it. Your energy will shift, and in turn, their energy will shift. Your presence will become magnetic because it's grounded in authenticity and self-respect. This is a practice. It's not about quick fixes or drastic changes. It's about taking small steps every day to honor yourself, to show up for yourself, and to create a life that reflects who you truly are. It's about choosing to wear clothes that make you feel empowered, choosing a posture that makes you feel strong, and choosing to look at yourself with love and acceptance. It's about letting go of the old versions of yourself that no longer serve you and allowing the real you to emerge. And this doesn't mean you have to constantly strive for some unattainable ideal. It means accepting where you are right now, embracing your imperfections, and knowing that you are worthy of care and attention just as you are. The act of choosing to care for yourself is not about perfection. It's about the intention behind it. It's about the message you're sending to yourself and to the world that you are present, you are worthy, and you are enough. So, what will you choose today? Will you look at yourself with compassion, with honesty, and with the recognition that you are deserving of care and respect? Will you take a moment to ask yourself what your appearance is saying about your relationship with yourself? And will you commit to showing up for yourself today, tomorrow, and every day after, with the same care and attention you would give to someone you love deeply? The journey of self-care, of self-respect, and of authenticity is a lifelong process, and it begins with the small choices you make every day. It's not about doing it all perfectly. It's about showing up for yourself in whatever way you can every day. And when you do that, you'll start to notice how your energy shifts, how your presence becomes stronger, how the world around you starts to respond to the energy you're putting out. In the end, it's not just about what others see in you. It's about how you see yourself. It's about choosing to be seen as someone who values themselves, who takes care of themselves, and who is committed to living a life that is aligned with their true self. That is the power of self-respect, and when you embrace it, when you make it a part of your daily life, it transforms not only your own world but the world around you.